9 spine-chilling ex-girlfriend tales, love-turned-sinister horrors revealed that will haunt you. Brad had always thought he was safe in his small, rented home, surrounded by the comfort of his tools and the scent of motor oil. Life in his suburban Ohio town moved slowly, a quiet buzz of neighbors chatting over fences, kids playing in the streets, and the distant hum of the local diner. But that normalcy shattered with a single knock on the door. When he first opened it, his breath hitched. There stood Lisa, his ex-girlfriend. Her smile sparkled like the moonlight breaking through storm clouds. It felt like a dream, awakening feelings he had buried deep. But dreams often hold darker depths. As days turned into weeks, the shadows began creeping in. It started subtly at night, whispers shuffled through the stillness, a low rustle that sent chills down his spine. He shrugged it off, blaming a creaky house, but unease gnawed at his gut. Then came the texts from an unknown number. "I see you," they read, sending his mind racing. He dismissed them at first. Maybe it was a prank. Yet, paranoia wrapped its icy fingers around him as each night wore on, compounding his dread. Every shudder of the shadows grew louder until it felt like they whispered his name. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Friends began to voice their concerns, murmurs of unease vibrated through their conversations. They recalled Lisa's past, filled with obsessive tendencies that he had once dismissed as youthful passion. Instead of rekindling old flames, he found himself trapped in a flickering darkness. Mia, his teenage daughter, felt it too. "Something's off with her, Dad," she had said one evening, a tremor in her voice that made his heart drop. The tension suffocated him like a dense fog as he tried to rationalize it. Could Lisa really pose any threat? She was once the girl that made him laugh, the tinder to his spark. Yet, one uneventful night, as he lay in a restless sleep, he was jolted awake by the eerie shrill of his phone. Blocked number. Heart racing, he stumbled to the window. There she was, Lisa, standing by the flickering streetlight, a twisted smile illuminating her face against the gloom. Panic gripped him. She looked like a ghost, her eyes dark and hollow, yet alive with something sinister. Time slowed, each heartbeat drumming a warning in his ears. As he stood frozen in terror, her phone glinted as she raised it, capturing a snapshot of their quiet world, a world he'd grown to know and love, now skewed. Should he flee with Mia or confront the demons unfurling from a twisted love? The choice dangled before him, a precipice of fear hovering in the night, a fragile line between safety and despair. Brad's breath hitched. The tension was unbearable, and he couldn't shake that feeling of being watched. He gripped the phone, knowing this moment might alter everything. He was directly confronted with the horrific shadows of his past. And yet, it was just the beginning. The nights that followed were suffocating, wrapped in a shroud of fear. Brad found it hard to sleep, each creak of the old house amplifying the whispers that clawed at the edges of his mind. Mia sensed his agitation. "Dad, just talk to her. Clear the air," she urged one evening while they shared a questionable dinner of reheated takeout. But he couldn't. He knew talking meant inviting the chaos back into their lives. That he returned to the living room after tucking Mia into bed, his fingers trembling on the TV remote. Instead of the usual sitcoms, he needed some form of distraction. But his gaze kept drifting to the window. The streetlight flickered, casting ghostly shadows, making it easy to imagine Lisa lurking just outside. Then it happened. A thud resonated in the silence, heavy and deliberate. Panic surged through him. What was it? Heart racing, he moved cautiously toward the sound. Each step felt like a betrayal of his instinct to flee. He reached the hallway and carefully turned the corner to the back door. It swung open. The wind caught it, banging it against the wall with a force that made him jump. He rushed over, eyes scanning for any sign of her. Nothing. Just the dark expanse of his backyard, shrouded in silence. But he could feel it, the looming presence of something unseen. Text messages came in waves, ghostly echoes that wanted to invade his sanity. "I'm closer than you think." The messages pinged like knives against his reality. He couldn't shake the thought that Lisa was out there, playing a relentless game, like the night had turned into a twisted version of hide-and-seek. Taking a deep breath, Brad flipped the lock shut and locked the sliding door, desperate for the semblance of security. He threw himself onto the couch, adrenaline still coursing through him. But even the mundane seemed tainted now. The furniture felt sharp, the air stirred anxiously, almost taunting him. He needed a plan. Calling the police felt alarmist, especially since he had no concrete evidence of Lisa's intent. Deep down, he knew she had always been unpredictable, a tempest of emotions. Yet love had once masked this reality, blinding him to her tendencies. How had he been so naive? He forced himself to breathe, the urgency digging into his chest like iron. And then something glimmered in the corner of his eye. His phone. Texts, again. He grabbed it, hoping to silence the dread with action. Curiosity fogged his heart as he unlocked it. This time, there was a video. With shaking hands, he pressed play. The image jerked into focus. Lisa stood in the very backyard he had just checked. The camera panned around slowly, revealing the darkness cloaking the corners, and finally stopped on the porch light, which flickered ominously like a beacon in her homeland of shadows. But it was her face that made his blood run cold. Her expression was blank. No twisted smile this time, just a deep, unrelenting stare that seemed to bore into his soul. Then the video cut out, leaving only a piercing silence. Brad could barely think as dread coiled tighter around his chest. What did this mean? She was closer than he'd imagined, or had he brought the fear upon himself by confronting the past? In the stillness following the video, he heard it. A soft tap-tap-tap against the window. His breath caught, and a bone-chilling realization gnawed at him. Maybe she was already inside. Just then, the lights flickered, plunging him into darkness. His heart thudded relentlessly as he realized the horror was far from over. Did he dare look? The tap grew louder, more insistent. And from behind him, he heard a whispered voice. "Brad. I've been waiting." Was this the end or merely the beginning of something far worse? He turned slowly, dread curling in his stomach like a live wire. The darkness felt alive, pulsating with a cruel anticipation that wrapped around him. Was it his imagination, or did the shadows shift, almost eager to reveal what lay hidden? Brad, that whisper again, dripping with a familiar malice. It echoed in his ears, tasting like a bitter memory. He clenched his fists, fighting the urge to bolt for the front door. Whatever was behind him, he needed to confront it. With a deep breath, he finally pivoted, settling his gaze into the void where Lisa's presence should be. His heart raced as he strained to see, thoughts racing. What did she want? And why here? Why now? The voice came closer, intimate and chilling. "You know I can't just disappear suddenly." The lights flickered back on, illuminating the room, and there she was. Lisa stood against the far wall, bathed in a sickly yellow glow. Her hair clung to her face, framing a visage that had once captivated him. But now it was a mask of anger and desperation. "Why won't you talk to me?" she hissed, taking a step forward. The movement was smooth and predatory. Panic gripped Brad. "You need to leave. You shouldn't be here." Her laughter slashed through the air, a jagged, mocking sound. "Oh, Brad. You don't get to decide when I leave. You made your choice. Now, it's my turn to make mine." He stumbled back, focusing on the door, the dark space now a hollow threat. Every instinct told him to run, but he couldn't take his eyes off her. "You don't mean that," he pleaded, but the desperation in his voice only seemed to amuse her. "I do. You rejected me. You wanted a new life, but it's still in my grasp. A chill crept up his spine as he realized the depth of her madness. Her commitment to this twisted game was unwavering. He felt the panic build in his chest, the realization that talking wouldn't save him, only actions would. Did you come here to hurt us? The thought of Mia chilled him more than looking into Lisa's eyes. With that, her face contorted into a rage. You and your little girl never understood. You think you can just erase me? The temperature plummeted. He shivered, knowing he had to act before she snapped. I'll call the police. With a convulsive motion, her hand shot out, and his phone flew from his grasp, smashing against the wall. Pieces rained down like black confetti, the screen fading to darkness. No one is coming for you, she snarled, stepping closer. His heart pounded as he frantically searched for an escape. Instead, his eyes caught a flash of movement outside, two shadowy figures gathering at the window. Panic surged. Were they watching? Were they waiting? Suddenly, she lunged at him. He dodged, heart racing, adrenaline coursing through him like fire. He stumbled backward, crashing against the table, sending chairs clattering. Brad! Mia's voice sliced through the chaos. The door burst open, and she stood framed in the light, confusion playing across her young face. Brad's heart seized. Get back! He shouted, fear rippling through him. Lisa spun around, her attention now fixed on Mia, eyes narrowing like a predator finding new prey. Stay away from her! Brad roared, scrambling to his feet. But the room felt smaller, the shadows thickening as if they were alive, converging tighter. He had to protect Mia, but how? The walls felt like they were closing in, an oppressive weight overhead. Lisa's dark laugh echoed as she took a step toward his daughter. What will you do to save her, Brad? You think you can shield her from me? In that horrifying moment, he realized there wouldn't be a clean resolution. And then, a flash of metal glinted ominously in the corner of his eye, a reflection that led to the kitchen where he had kept a knife for protection. Get the knife, his mind raced. But as he took a hesitant step, shadows danced, and the room darkened again, plunging them back into chaos. What will you choose? Lisa taunted, her voice slithering under his skin. Before he could answer, the lights cut out once more, darkness enveloped him like a suffocating fog. In that moment, the world vanished until there was only the sound of breathing and the whisper of lying innocence just beyond his reach. What had he unleashed? And would they all make it out alive? Brad's heart thudded in his chest, a relentless drumbeat echoing the urgency that clawed at the edges of his mind. He could barely see his hands in the thick darkness, but he could feel Mia's presence nearby, a small and innocent light amidst the chaos. Every instinct told him to reach for her, but fear gripped him tight. Stay close to me, he whispered, his voice almost lost in the suffocating void that sprawled within the room. He felt Mia's small hand slip into his as they both stood frozen, waiting for the air to crack with danger. Dad, what's happening? She asked, a tremor lacing her innocent tone. I don't know, sweetheart, he admitted, his gaze narrowing toward where Lisa had been only moments ago. The darkness felt heavier than ever, thick as molasses, swirling with an unseen malice. Not knowing could cost you. Her voice slithered through the air, a cruel reminder that Lisa was still there, lurking in the shadows. You shouldn't have brought her here. Leave her out of this. Brad shouted, feeling a surge of protectiveness wash over him like an icy wave. Is that what you really want? Lisa asked, her voice softening into a dangerous lilt. Or are you simply too weak to protect her from me? He swallowed hard, fury mixing with terror. She was banking on his fear, using it to fuel her twisted game. Tell me where you are, Lisa. He stepped forward, the darkness whispering his name, trying to draw him back. Face me. You're a coward, hiding in the dark. Suddenly, the lights flickered back to life, illuminating the room in a bright, blistering haze that hurt his eyes. But she wasn't there. Just the two of them, Mia still clutching his hand, the breath leaving his lungs in a rush. "Dad?" She peered around, her voice tinged with confusion. "Stay behind me." He backed toward the kitchen, eyes darting to every corner, hoping to catch a glimpse of movement, an indication of Lisa's whereabouts. He could feel the frantic beating of his own heart as it echoed in his ears. From the living room window, the shadowy figures remained, still watching, still waiting. Were they friends? Foes? He felt a chill creep up his spine. The world outside was indifferent to the horror unfolding within the walls of their home. "Brad." Lisa's voice returned, sharper now, full of venom. "You'll never be free. You think you're protecting her? All you're doing is sealing her fate." "No!" he shouted back, rage boiling over. He could feel it churning inside him, ready to explode. Just then, Mia gasped, pointing at the window. "Look!" Brad's heart sank. One of the shadowy figures at the window had inched closer, a malicious grin plastered on what he could only assume was a familiar face. It was a man, someone he thought he'd gotten rid of a long time ago. His old friend, Mike. "Mia!" he shouted, urgency surging through him. "Get to the kitchen. Now!" Mia hesitated, fear dancing across her features, but he tugged her, propelling her ahead of him. As they stumbled into the kitchen, Brad's eyes darted to the knife block, his heart racing as its promise whispered through the room. He lunged forward, grabbing the largest blade, its cold steel grounding his spinning mind. A sudden crash shattered the fragile silence behind him. The front door flung open with a violent force. The shadows shifted as Lisa surged through, her presence more real than ever. "You think you can escape me by hiding in the kitchen?" In that moment, desperation clashed with resolve. He gripped the knife tightly, every nerve in his body screaming to end this. But as he raised it, he saw Mia watching him with wide, terrified eyes. "Dad," she whispered, and the weight of her innocence crashed down on him, pulling him back from the brink. For an instant, a flicker of doubt crossed his mind. What was he about to do? But the tension snapped, and Lisa lunged forward, her gnarled hands reaching for them both. His instincts took over, and he thrust the knife forward, trying to defend his daughter, protect her from the darkness spilling into their lives. But then, he paused. What if it's too late? He thought, the question reverberating in the charged air. Just how far was he willing to go to keep them safe? The shadows danced, their laughter echoing around him. The choice was becoming clearer, but the outcome remained blurred. "Will you act, or falter?" Lisa hissed, her face a mask of rage and twisted delight. As Brad swung the knife towards the encroaching shadow, horror tightened around them, threatening to swallow everything whole. What had he truly unleashed in that cursed moment? And would he have the strength to wield it? The blade trembled in Brad's hand, the weight of it both a comfort and a curse. Shadows encircled him, alive with hunger, and he could feel the room pulse with darkness. Each breath he took filled his lungs with dread as he stared at the grinning visage of Lisa, her eyes gleaming with malice. "Do it!" she taunted, the word a whip in the suffocating air. "It's what you've always wanted, isn't it? To set yourself free at any cost? Or are you just afraid to finish what you started? Stay away from her!" Brad roared, channeling every ounce of fatherly fury. He had pushed the knife forward as a warning, but fear tangled in his heart. The way Lisa moved, inching ever closer, made it clear that she relished this moment, savoring the chaos. Mia clutched his shirt, her petite fingers digging into the fabric as if trying to ground herself amidst the tempest of terror. "Daddy, please." Her voice was a whisper now, laced with an understanding too painful for a child. The reality of their predicament settled heavily over them, a suffocating fog that threatened to swallow their hopes whole. As Brad wavered, the kitchen lights flickered again, casting unsettling shadows that danced across the walls. The clock on the wall ticked, each second a reminder that time was slipping away. Mike loomed in the background up until now, just a pair of eyes watching. Now he stepped fully into the room, a sinister entity from Brad's past. "You didn't really think you'd escape, did you, Brad?" Mike's voice dripped with mockery, as if this were all just a twisted game. "You should know by now, I'm not done with you." Perhaps it was the years of friendship, those moments shared in laughter, that twisted Brad's insides. Here was a man he once called brother, now cloaked in shadows and malice. "No. You stay back," Brad warned, the knuckles on his grip widening around the knife. "Do you see it now?" Lisa swept her hand, gesturing toward Mike. "You'll always be bound to those you think you can outrun. You can't hide from your past, Brad. It will always come back." Suddenly, a shattering crash broke through the air, and Brad's pulse quickened. From the other side of the kitchen, a figure burst through the back door, a policeman, drawn in by the chaos, his uniform a symbol of hope amidst the horror. "What is going on here?" the officer shouted, hands reaching for his weapon. Relief flooded Brad's senses, a stark contrast to the dread, but Lisa's eyes blazed with fury. "Don't you see? They're all just pawns in my game." The cop froze, eyes darting around, instinctively sensing the tension. But then Lisa laughed, a cackling sound that sent chills to his core. "Look around you, officer. Whose life do you think hangs by a thread? Your daughter is in danger." The cop shouted, but before he could process the scene, Lisa lunged past Brad, her focus locked onto Mia. "No!" Brad screamed, panic igniting a primal force within him. The knife slipped from his grip, clattering to the floor, but he didn't hesitate. He lunged forward, the adrenaline igniting his muscles. As he hurtled toward Lisa, he flashed back to moments when he had tried to confront her in the past. Distant memories now returned to haunt him. They were failures branded in fire and pain. This couldn't be another one. Not now. Not when Mia was at stake. The cop had drawn his weapon, but everything moved like molasses. Lisa's fingers grasped for Mia, dragging her toward the shadows. "You will never escape," she shrieked, the words blending with the eerie laughter enveloping them. Brad's hand found the knife again, cold and sharp as he gritted his teeth. Would this final act cut the ties of the past or sever their future completely? The fate of his daughter hinged on a choice that felt impossibly heavy. The air crackled with tension, every heartbeat echoing the urgency. Would he have the strength to confront not just Lisa, but the choices that had brought them here? Amidst the swirling chaos, the flickering lights dimmed, and there was something foreign hidden in the shadows that called to him. What lay beyond this moment, tangled in darkness and despair? He had to know. Time stretched as Brad surged forward, every moment stretching to infinity. He could see Mia's terrified eyes, wide and pleading. The knife gripped tight in his palm felt like a burning brand, promising salvation but threatening damnation. Lisa's laughter echoed, cruel and mocking, as she danced around him. "You think you can save her? You're just a coward." His heart pounded like a war drum. He didn't want to be a coward. He refused to be chained by her taunts, or by the sins that Mike had dredged up. He needed to strike, to sever this malevolent attachment once and for all. With adrenaline pushing him onward, Brad shifted his focus. He thought of Mia, her innocent laughter, her bright smile. Underneath the weight of his fears, a spark ignited. It was the hope of fatherhood. It flickered in the darkness, urging him to act. "Get away from her, Lisa," he shouted, voice cracking under pressure. He lunged, aimed the knife toward Lisa, forcing her back. The blade gleamed, a slice of silver against the shadows. Just as the knife moved through the air, the cop had moved to, his weapon aimed, voice sharp. "Drop it." In that moment of confusion, the world turned chaotic. Brad felt Lisa slip past him, her presence like a cold breeze, dangerous and familiar. Mia's scream split the stillness, a piercing cry that froze him in place. "Daddy!" she wailed as she was pulled closer into Lisa's grip. The shadows seemed to close around them like a hungry beast, ready to swallow them whole. "Help her!" Brad shouted at the officer, panic rising in his throat. He watched helplessly as Lisa yanked Mia closer, their bodies entwined in a dance of desperation. "You can't save her, Brad. None of you can." Lisa hissed in triumph, her grip like iron on Mia's wrist. The light from the kitchen seemed to bend and twist, shadows swelling, consuming all the warmth. The cop lowered his weapon, confusion knitting his brow. "What do you mean? Just let her go. Do you want to see what happens when I get bored?" Lisa's eyes glinted with madness. "The game has just begun." With a sudden movement, she reached into her back pocket, producing something like a small object that glimmered in the dim light. Brad's stomach dropped as he realized it was a trigger. He lunged. Panic filled his lungs as fear clawed at his throat. The sharpness of the knife felt clumsy now, and the weight of the unmade decision crushed him. "Mia!" was all he could scream, his voice cracking under the strain, but in that instant, the cop's voice cut through the tension, firm and commanding. "Drop the weapon, now." Brad hesitated. Time snapped like a tight wire. The room waited, breaths held, as fear surged through him like a pulse. Would the officer understand? Would he comprehend the twisted nightmare unfolding before them? If only there were a way to break this cycle of violence, to bring Mia back to light. But the shadows were thick, despair lingered like an old friend. Suddenly, the lights flickered violently, and Brad caught a glimpse of movement behind the shadows, a figure standing just beyond the door. A familiar figure, emerging from the darkness, cloaked but unmistakable. The air grew cold, a frigid wave washing over them. "Would you look at that?" Mike's voice was smooth, like venom. "Seems like we're all back together again for one last game." Brad's heart raced. The stakes were higher, the shadows thicker. What game was he talking about? The darkness encroached deeper, blurring the lines of truth and manipulation. Each moment stretched, thick with dread. What would he do? What awaited them in the depths of that gathering night? Before he could answer, a clap of thunder roared outside, echoing the turmoil within. What choice remained in the heart of chaos? The air thickened with tension. Mike stepped further into the dim light, his figure absorbing the shadows around him. His grin was unsettling, the kind that sent shivers down a spine. "Looks like I found the perfect opportunity to play," he said, eyeing the knife in Brad's hand. "Mike, back off!" Brad shouted, his voice trembling as he glanced at Mia, still trapped in Lisa's grip. The girl's wide eyes filled with terror, and for a brief moment, he could see every innocent memory they shared. They were flooding his mind now, intertwining with the fear and panic gripping his heart. Lisa's laughter bubbled again, a manic symphony that clawed at the walls. "You're all too predictable. A little drama to spice things up?" "Shut up!" Brad roared, his fingers tightening around the knife as if it were a lifeline. But the glimmer of hope began to dim. The knife felt heavier. He could see the malice etched in Lisa's face, the devilish flicker of excited madness in her eyes. The cop remained rooted, his weapon still trained on Brad. Someone needs to take control here. Now. Brad's heart sank. He felt lost, engulfed by tormenting shadows. "Help her!" he yelled, panic clawing at his throat again. But Lisa only tightened her grip on Mia. Brad could hear the girl whimper softly. The sound was a knife in his gut, despair coiled around him like a serpent. Suddenly, Mike stepped forward, raising a hand like a magician unveiling his greatest trick. "What if I told you that I have the key to win this little game?" "What are you talking about?" The words tumbled out, raw and desperate. He laughed softly, the tone thick with wicked delight. "You know all the worst regrets of your life. There's a way to turn them into your biggest strengths." His eyes gleamed with malice. "But first, you have to make a choice." Brad's breathing slowed. "What choice? What do you want?" Ah, it's simple. You give me control and I'll let her go. He tilted his head, his expression almost playful. Or, you refuse. And we get to see how deep the darkness goes. Don't listen to him. The cop shouted, and for a moment, Brad could only see the chaos swirling between them. Mia, Lisa, Mike, the ornate tapestry of horror. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Mike sneered, raising an eyebrow. The tension spiraled, growing taut as a string ready to snap. Brad's mind raced. What was his choice? What darkness lay ahead if he relinquished power? But at what cost did defiance come? The kitchen felt like an altar, the shadows dancing as if they too awaited a sacrifice. Mia, the weight of his daughter's name pressed heavily on his heart. Choose wisely, Lisa's voice echoed, almost a whisper now, sweetly dripping with poison. In an instant, the lights fizzled out, plunging the room into night. A wave of panic hit him, words tearing at the silence. Would he gamble the one thing that mattered most for a chance at hope? As his heart thudded against his ribs, Brad's decision spiraled around him like a cyclone. What was the right path? Truth or betrayal, love or survival? The darkness pulsed around him, chaotic and relentless. Make your choice, Brad, Mike taunted from the shadows, and then there was silence, a curtain dropping over the face of reality, leaving only the question hanging in the thickening air. At that moment, he knew one thing. The game was just beginning. What awaited him when the truth was finally revealed? The darkness swallowed everything whole. Brad stood frozen, his heart racing in his chest, a wild drum echoing into the silence. The air felt dense, thick with dread. He strained to hear, to catch any sound that might indicate where Mike or Lisa had gone. Mia! He yelled, his voice breaking as he strained against the emptiness. The kitchen felt more confined, the walls creeping in on him, shadows whispering secrets of despair and dread. Would the next moment bring relief or death? Then, a low laugh ignited the darkness. It slithered around him, wrapping tightly like a vine. Oh, Brad, Mike's voice echoed, you really think you're in control here? The mocking tone sent chills racing down his spine that he couldn't see, but Brad knew Mike was too close, lurking like a predator ready to pounce. You want power, right? You want to protect her? The laughter faded, replaced by a sinister whisper that crawled under his skin. Your choice will reveal everything. Shut up. Brad barked, but uncertainty laced his voice. How was he expected to protect Mia when he couldn't even see the threat looming just beyond his reach? Then, another sound, a whimper. It tore through the oppressive blackness like a siren. Dad? Mia's voice pierced the shadows, trembling. Despair shot through him. He couldn't let her see him falter. I'm here, Mia. Just hold on. Where is she? He demanded into the blackness, the knife clutched like a lifeline in his hand, the lights flickered back on, not fully, but enough. He squinted, met by jagged shadows and a twisted smirk on Mike's face. Lisa was still behind him, her arm wrapped tight around Mia's neck. Those wide eyes that used to sparkle with innocence now teemed with terror, and it broke him. Make your move, Brad, Mike taunted. Will you save your little girl or will you take the plunge into darkness? Let her go. Brad shouted, fear and anger igniting a fire in him. He lunged, but a metallic clang echoed in the room, and the cop shouted, stop. Lisa yanked Mia closer, her breath hot and panting against the girl's neck. You want her, Brad? A deadly calm coated her words. Then you have to make it worth my while. What do you want? The words spat out, but the vulnerability behind them clawed at his throat. Control, she hissed. You give me what I want, and she walks out of here alive. As uncertainty washed over him, Brad glanced at Mike, who was grinning eagerly, taking pleasure in the chaos. Or you can keep digging your own grave. Mike gestured to the knife, its blade glinting. Aren't you tired of it all? The regrets? The pain? Stop this! Brad shouted, desperation flooding him. The weight of the knife felt monumental. Every second stretched, wrapping around him tightly, squeezing. Mia's whimper ripped through him again, louder this time, sending his conscience into tumult. "No!" he cried. "Don't you dare hurt her!" "Then step forward, Brad." In a flash, Lisa's grip loosened ever so slightly. "Choose me," she coaxed, and Brad felt the breath catch in his throat. "Or lose her forever." The room was suffocating, shadows dancing around him, whispering doubts and regrets. What was the price he'd pay to save Mia? Could he live with himself if he chose wrong? Tick-tock, Mike's voice echoed again, twisting the knife of chaos deeper, and then, the lights cut out once more, plunging them all back into inky despair. Brad's mind raced with possibilities. What was he willing to sacrifice? It felt as if the ground beneath him might give way. Then, the sound of scuffling came from behind him, followed by a terrifying scream that echoed through the silence. Brad's heart sank. What had just shattered, the game had twisted yet again, and he had no idea how. What darkness awaited him when the truth finally clawed its way to the surface? The scream faded into the shadows, leaving behind a hollow silence that pounded in Brad's ears. The knife slipped from his grasp, clattering against the hard floor. "Mia!" he shouted, panic bursting through him like a dam breaking. He frantically searched the darkness, straining to catch a glimpse of his daughter's face. "Your little girl is just fine, for now." Mike's voice dripped with malevolence, reverberating through the kitchen. "But you know how fragile she is, right?" The flickering lights shone briefly over the cracked tiles, casting elongated shadows that danced grotesquely in every direction. Brad fought to regain control as panic clawed at his throat. "Let her go. Just let her go," he repeated, desperation coursing through him like fire. "Why should I?" Lisa's voice, now low and threatening, resonated behind him. "She's a pawn in a game much bigger than you realize." There was a shift in the air, an invisible tension rising, and Brad felt their predatory eyes fixated on him. "Game?" Brad echoed, trying to sound brave. "What game? What do you want from me?" The air turned electric, heavy with unspoken threats. "Oh, it's simple," Mike chimed in, inching closer. "It's a question of worth. You see, Brad, you think you can protect her, but what if you can't? What if the only way to ensure her safety is to surrender to the darkness?" "What darkness?" Brad barked, adrenaline sharpening his senses. "What are you talking about?" He felt the cold steel of the knife beneath his fingers as he crouched, willing his heart to calm, but Lisa's laughter filled the dark, chilling him to the bone. "You want to save her? Then face the truth, Brad. You can't protect her from what's coming. You've been hiding from it your whole life." Suddenly, the lights blinked back on, illuminating the scene. Brad gasped, the horror amplifying as he turned. A mirror hung on the wall, cracked down the middle, and in its reflection, he saw Mia just out of reach, her large eyes wide with fear. "Help me!" she cried out, her voice breaking under the weight of terror. Brad lunged forward only for Lisa's arm to tighten around her. "Not so fast." Lisa's grip was unyielding, her expression colder than ice. "Make your choice, Brad. Save her or let go of your own past. But know this, without sacrifice, there is no salvation." "What past?" he shouted, feeling dizzy. Every memory flooded back moments he had tried to bury. Each regret now felt like chains weighing down his spirit. "I'll do anything." "Anything?" Mike's grin was wide, malevolent. "Careful what you wish for, my friend." In that instant, Brad felt an overwhelming surge create a vacuum in his chest. He didn't want to betray Mia, but he couldn't watch her suffer. Shadows swirled closer, closing in like a noose around his hope. Suddenly, a frantic banging came from the front of the house, a desperate sound that echoed through the silence. An intruder? Rescue or doom? Brad couldn't tell. But then came a familiar voice, her voice, Mia's voice, growing louder, stretching across the house. "Daddy! Help me!" He swung around, eyes darting, and for a brief moment, he had forgotten Lisa entirely, focused solely on the sound. The desperation in her tone pushed him forward, past his frozen fear. "Hold on, Mia!" he shouted. "I'm coming." But as he dashed toward the noise, he felt a sharp pain stab through his shoulder, an electric jolt of reality shocking him back. Brad stumbled and turned to see Lisa leaping forward, her eyes wild with madness. "You want to get to her?" she growled, and with that, someone else in the room gasped. What was unraveling would show Brad that every choice is a thread in a web spun by someone else. As his body collided with Lisa, another scream cut through the air, but it wasn't Mia's this time. It was a scream of resentment, betrayal, and the smell of blood filled the air. Who had he unleashed? What horrors awaited him as he fought through the shadows to gather the pieces of his past? The darkness held many secrets, and only the brave would uncover them. As the blood pooled around him, time seemed to stutter. Brad's heart raced in a panic-driven rhythm, caught in a chaotic storm of emotions. He had collided with Lisa, but the shock of their bodies meeting was nothing compared to the realization of the knife, that serrated blade now buried into the side of his ex-girlfriend. Her face twisted into a mask of disbelief, eyes wide as if she couldn't comprehend the truth of what just unfolded. "Mia!" he shouted again, the urgency electrifying his limbs. His world narrowed to his daughter's voice, a haunting echo that reverberated through the chaos. Lisa gasped, fingers reaching for him, the warmth of life pooling beneath her, seeping into the fabric of his existence. "You didn't have to," she murmured, voice faint, cracking under the weight of desperation. The shadows crept closer, flaring at the edges of his consciousness like vultures circling a carcass. "Get away from her!" he screamed, feeling his grip on the knife tighten. The reality of what he had done could swallow him whole, but what mattered now was saving Mia. He'd already lost too much. Through the swirling shadows, he heard the sound of footsteps racing toward him, heavy thuds on the hardwood floors. Relief surged as the cop stormed through the kitchen door, weapon drawn, eyes darting between Lisa and Brad. "Drop the weapon," he commanded, but everything felt surreal, like a nightmare drifting out of control. "No. It's Lisa." But the words felt grotesquely inadequate. She was getting weaker, breaths heavy, labored. "Brad, just let it go," the officer urged, but he felt something snap in him, an instinct to protect what was left, to shield his daughter from this twisted reincarnation of his past life. He stepped away from the rising shadows, eyes darting around, each glance fueling his resolve. "Mia!" he cried, cutting through the horror surrounding him. "Dad! Help me!" Her voice broke him further. Brad's mind turned to the fear of losing her to this nightmare, of failing to keep her from harm. He pivoted toward the cold metal of the knife, realizing he must confront Lisa's madness to save Mia. The lights flickered back on, revealing Mia just behind the officer, expression filled with helplessness, hands grasping blindly at thin air to find salvation. Lisa's body slumped to the floor, ethereal in the dim glow. Mia's eyes widened as she glanced between her father and the crumpled form of Lisa. What happened? Vulnerability filled her small features, terror etching into the lines of her young face. "They're gone, Mia. It's okay. Just, come to me," he said, imploring her with every ounce of love woven into his voice. She hesitated, fear locking her in a fragile stasis, but he could see the flicker of trust return. "Dad!" As Mia rushed to him, the realization hit like a freight train. The shadows receded, revealing the trapped energy of unresolved chaos, a warning thrumming in his chest. Mike's laughter echoed in the recesses of his mind. The danger wasn't gone. It lingered, just beyond reach. "Get back!" The officer shouted at Lisa's fallen form, prepared to step closer, but Brad needed to move. He had to protect his daughter from whatever malevolence still hung in the air. "Call for backup," Brad shouted at the officer. "There's more to this." Suddenly, a loud crash reverberated from the doorway, drawing all eyes. A figure emerged from the darkness, waiting like smoke until the familiar silhouette materialized. Mike, his malevolent grin cutting through the tension like a knife. "You think it's over?" Mike sneered, stalking forward, the embodiment of nightmares. "I'm just getting started. Stay away from us," Brad roared, positioning himself protectively in front of Mia. The fear inside him cocooned, giving birth to determination. "Pathetic. You let them chain you to the past, but it's time to sever those bonds," Mike spat, laughter dancing in the air, glee written all over his face. But this time, Brad was ready to fight back. Before he could lose himself to the chaos, he remembered every past encounter had been a trap, drawing him further into the darkness. This was no game. In this moment, he had a choice, to break free or let history repeat itself. With a resolute step forward, he said, "No. I won't let you destroy my family." Mia stepped beside him, a small beacon of strength that filled his heart. They would face the darkness, together. As if sensing their newfound resolve, Mike faltered, his bravado shattering in the wake of their united front. "Do you really believe that?" He laughed, but uncertainty flared in his gaze, as if he too felt the precarious hinge gripping their fates. "Yes," Brad breathed, fire dancing in his chest. "It ends here. This is our story." With that, he clutched Mia's hand tightly. The shadows rattled, dark whispers of defeat swirling within them. The officer stepped forward, hand stabilizing on his weapon, joining their standoff. In a moment of clarity, Brad realized love had lit the path through the darkness. "Game over, Mike," he shouted, the finality cutting through the dimming air. Maybe the past would always linger, but it didn't own him anymore. As the darkness writhed and Mike's laughter fell silent, they stood united against the shadows. "Let us go home," he whispered to Mia, finally turning away from the uncertain past, ready to embrace the hope they built together. They stepped outside into the night, the cool air wrapping around them like a promise. The moon shone bright, illuminating their path forward, a reminder that even after darkness, light can return. As they walked, light spilled from the windows of the house, a sign that their future would be different. Hope shimmered, radiant in the heart of the night. Brad exhaled deeply, the weight of fear lifting. They were free. But before he could fully breathe a sigh of relief, the shadows twitched behind them like living memories, whispers of the past reminding him it was never truly over. That wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. Now, it's your turn to jump in. Don't miss out on these incredible stories. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive tales waiting for you. Smash that like button now, and feed the algorithm with your support. Every click makes a difference. I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And finally, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.